Okay, hello and welcome to version 5 of our Noughts and Crosses game. So I'm just looking here, I didn't do the release notes at the end of our last version, but I've just put them in the interim off camera. And last version we added in our victory condition logic so we know when someone's won or someone's drawn, and that whole kind of looking through the rows and the columns and the diagonals, we did all that great stuff. We are automatically adding whether to like a statistic of wins and losses and draws for each player to kind of keep track of how many they've won and lost each. And we've also added a gameplay freeze on victory draw. So if we run our application now and have a little look, let's just move this down. Okay, we can see this working really nicely, and if someone wins like this, I can't continue playing, which is fantastic. Okay, now I think there is a bug though. So I think if I play this and I click this square and then I click it again, so Bob and Alice can both play in the same square over and over again, right? So if I've got like, let's say 2 in a row here, Bob can just come along and change this naught to a cross, and that's not very good. Okay, so this is going to be the first bug that we want to squash because we don't want this kind of thing happening. Okay, so let's have a little think about this. So let's go to our main function where we've got our noughts and crosses class, and let's come down to where the click event first fires. So clicked here. Okay, so we are setting the button's contents with self.currentTurn. Okay, now we need to really only set the contents of that button if it doesn't already include a hyphen, already a naught or a cross. Okay, if it already has a naught or a cross, then we're not going to do it, and it's kind of still their turn. So we need a way to really manage this, and what we'll be doing is we'll be using the button class. So we're going to go to the button, I think that's in game board, or space even, with the space class. I should have called it button. I didn't call it button because that'll be confused with Takinta's actual button class. So we're going to do that today. What we're also going to do is if I go to my to-do list, we're going to add some drop-down menus. Okay, so this will be where someone can go to and to say restart, and they can start a new game. So rather than just being able to play one game and then the app's just kind of stuck, we're going to have a way to, okay, new game, and keep going and going and going. So let's jump into our game board, and here where we have a space, we're telling it here to set contents. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a new method because it's handy to have a method that just sets the contents of that space, but also what we want is a method that we set the contents when a player's clicked on it. Okay, so we're going to set player contents here, and we're going to give it the self, and we're also going to give it, so this is in game board in the class of space, we're also going to give it, what we're going to give it, we're going to give it the player turn, right? So whoever's turn it is, we're going to pass that in. Now we need to check the contents of what's inside our space, and if it's already got a naught or a cross in it, then we're not going to do anything. Okay, so we're going to say we're going to say contents equals self dot, and you can see down here we've got this method get contents, right? So we're going to say self dot get contents. So we're going to find out what's actually inside this space, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do an if statement. So we're going to make a decision based on what's in that, what we're storing in this button, in this square. So we're going to say if our contents is equal to a hyphen, no, not hyphen, blank char. Yeah, so we're using the variable name, so we can just update it once here. So we're going to say if contents is equal to self dot blank char, we're going to say, actually, I wonder if set player contents is the right word here. I wonder. Really, all we really want to do is we want to check whether the player can go here, whether this is a valid space. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to call this valid placement. I'm going to call it is valid placement because when I return true or false, it then makes more sense. Is valid placement? True. So it is valid placement. Is valid placement? False. So that means it's not a valid placement. Yeah, that kind of makes sense because of the way I've worded it. So it just feels a bit more like human language. So we're going to say if our contents is equal to self.blankchar, so if it's a hyphen, then we're going to return true. So the player can move here. Otherwise, we're going to return false, okay? If it doesn't have a blank char in it, then it's not a blank space. Someone's already gone here. And so we're not going to allow someone, even if it's a naught trying to go in a naught space, like we don't want to then swap over to the crosses go because naught hasn't technically gone if they click in a space they've already gone in, right? So we're going to return false. And only if is valid placement is true are we going to actually progress with that player's turn and change the turn and do all of that good stuff. So we've implemented this little method here in the space class. So now we can jump back into our noughts and crosses class over here. And here, where we've got if self.gameover equals false, we're also going to check whether it's valid. Yeah? So I guess what we need to do is we need to put all of this inside an if statement because we don't want the next turn to trigger either. So we're going to put all of this, we're going to say if button dot is valid placement, and we're going to we're going to pass in self.playerTurn, self.current turn, yeah, that's the one. Okay, so that'll be the symbol of whoever's go it is. Why do we need that? We don't need that. We don't need that at all. Why am I passing that in? Let's go back to the game board. I didn't even use this player turn. That's so stupid. Why am I passing that in? I was going to do it a more complicated way, and since have developed this into a bit of a nicer. If it's equal to the blank character, return true. Otherwise, return false. So yeah, we don't need to pass anything in. So we can come back to our main function here, our main area, our noughts and crosses app in the clicked method. And if button dot is valid placement equals true, and you'll notice I'm actually calling this function, right? So we're gonna this is gonna return either true or false, and so true or false will be put in this position here. And so true will equal true, so that will be true, and false will not equal true, and so this will be false if depending on what it returns. And so only if it's a valid placement are we even going to try and do all of this. Okay, so this should now, when we run our code, allow us to not overwrite our spaces, right? So let's have a look here. Let's run this again. And so if Bob has gone here, so Alice is clicking this and nothing's happening, right? It's still Alice's turn. She goes here. Bob can't click on Alice's. He can't click on his own. He's got to go somewhere else. He goes over here. Okay, now it's Alice's turn, and she can't click on these. So now we've made our application much more robust because we're saying only if the button is a valid move. If it's an empty, I guess we could have said button dot is empty, or is blank. Is empty. Is empty is such a better. Valid placement's fine. We can overanalyze these things. Okay, fantastic. Now, let's get into the meat of what I want to do today. So I want a way that we can restart the game, okay? We want this game to continue. We don't want them to be able to restart willy-nilly. I don't want Bob to be like, oh no, Alice is about to win, I'll quickly restart. But what I do want is when we get to this situation where someone has won, okay, there is no good that they have to stop the application and restart, okay? Think of any computer game. How many times do you get to the end of it and you have to close the whole thing down and reopen it to have a new game? Just doesn't happen. Okay, so we're going to implement that, and the way we're going to implement that is we're going to use this article that I've linked in the description of this video. It's a Geeks for Geeks video. I referenced this in the last Let's Code series I did as well. It's really, really helpful. It gives you some really nice information about how to use Tkinter and what each kind of specific thing does. And there is a saying that says the good artist borrows, the great artist steals. And as a programmer, you should not feel bad about copying and pasting other people's code. It's all about development. And a really nice way to learn is actually taking code and then kind of playing with it and changing the values and seeing what happens, okay, and making it your own. So never be afraid to take code and just butcher it into what you want to do. Now I'm looking for a very specific thing. Have I found it? Yes, I found it. So I want this, which is number 9 in this article. We are looking for this menu section. You can see here we've got like a little drop. Oh no, that's the wrong one. You can see here we've got like this file menu and a help menu. So we're going to take all of this code, root.config downwards. So no, menu downwards. So we're going to take this bit here all the way down to help menu.add command, and we're just going to copy it. I'm going to paste it into repl.it, and then we're going to kind of make it our own, right? And we're going to make it work within our game. So this is going to be part of our noughts and crosses application. So it's going to go inside this class. And what we're going to do is down here, I've got a create game window method. What I want to do, sorry, I'm just minimizing some of these because there's so much code in this. It's kind of getting away from me here. There's so much code in this class. Okay, lovely. This is the great thing about wrapping everything up in functions, because once you've done it, it's just got a name and you can just call that name and it just makes sense. Anyway, so we've got create game window down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a function somewhere around here called def create menus. Create menu, create drop down menus. That makes sense. I really like to be specific with my function names, because I know that when I come back to this code tomorrow or next week or the week after, and I look at this, I'm going to be like, create menu. Is that the main menu? Or is that the menu bar? Or is that the account menu? Or is that, what menu is it? And then, yeah, so I try and be a little bit specific here. Now I'm just going to paste this whole block of code in. And we're going to work through this line by line, okay? So our menu equals menu. So we're creating a brand new menu. And I think, let's just kind of put up some spaces here. Let's just focus on this one line, single line of doom. Okay, so we're creating a new menu here using Tkinter, and we give it the root. Now, Tkinter often refers to the root as what we are referring to as the window, okay? Or Tkinter often refers to what we are currently referring to as the window as the root, okay? So if you see root, that is kind of meaning this here, okay? The tk.tk that we have stored in self.window. What we should also do is we should have a self.menu, okay? So we can keep hold of that menu. And we might need to access it later. We probably won't, but we're just going to set that equal to like an empty string just to remind ourselves that it exists. And then down here, when we create our drop-down menu, we're going to say self.menu equals menu. Actually, it needs to be tk.menu. Okay, not just menu. Now, up at the top here, where we said import Tkinter as tk, we could have said, we could have used the asterisk up here. We could have said from Tkinter import asterisk, and it would have imported all of the functions. And so we wouldn't have to say tk dot. We could just say tk, much like here where I said from player import player. Yeah, so instead of saying player.player, I can just say player. We could have done that with tk as well, and that's what that example has done, but we're not doing that. We're importing tk as tk to keep things nice and separate in case there's any like duplication of function names or variable names. And so when we're going through this, there will be anytime there's a capital letter, we know it's a class. We're making a new class of something, so we're making a new menu class here. And so I know I need to put tk dot in front of it. And instead of root here, we're going to say self.window. Okay, so we're gonna bind the menu to the window. Okay, kind of making sense at the moment, hopefully. Okay, now next line, taking it one line at a time. Root is of course our self.window, so I'm just gonna change this. Also probably gonna sneeze. I can feel one coming. It's gone. We're saying self.window.config, and we're saying menu equals self.menu. Okay, so basically we're going to go through all this code and we're just going to add tk dot or self dot in front of basically everything until it's our own code. And no one will know we've stolen it. They probably will. It's probably not. Steal is a bad word. Borrowed. Copied. help. It's there it's there on the internet. It's a guide. It's there for us to learn from. Anyway, so we've got here file menu equals menu. Now, I'm not going to call this file menu. I'm actually going to call this game menu. So we're going to call this game menu, not file menu. And I'm also going to update this to pothole case. So I'm going to say game underscore menu equals tk.menu. And we're going to pass in self.menu. Are you losing your mind yet? I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit. Okay. So we've created a variable here called game menu, and this is going to be the first menu that we can access. Okay. And game menu is going to have a few different things in it. Now, this line here, let's come up to menu.add cascade. Okay. This essentially tells it that it can be a drop down, right? When we say cascade, we mean like come down. So we will add in a kind of a cascading thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out every other line, okay? And then we can test this as we go along, and we can kind of see it working. So what I'm going to do, create drop-down menus. I'm going to copy this, and in our initialize, before we create the game window, I'm going to create the drop-down menu. So I'm going to say self.create drop-down menus, and I'm going to then create the game window. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to create... no, I need to create the game window first to then be able to... Do I? No, because I already created it at the top here. No, that's fine. That's fine. It works. It works. So we're going to create the drop-down menus, then we're going to create the game window, because the game window is more the game frame, really. We've already created the window, and then we just put the actual game screen inside that window. So we're popping that here, and let's just run it and see what happens. Before we run that, though, instead of menu, we need to do self.menu. And instead of saying menu equals file menu, we need to say menu equals game menu, because I updated that variable name just to confuse everyone, really, just to make you really confused about why. But this is gonna make sense when you see this. Okay, so we're gonna ignore these lines of code for the moment, and we're just gonna run this, and we're gonna see if we actually get a drop-down menu. So let's run. Okay, look at this. We've got a bar at the top. How exciting. It's starting to look like an application. And you can see here, when I hover over, it changes automatically. Fancy, I know. And if I click on it, I get this tiny little box, because we have told it to cascade, but we've not actually added anything in it. Also, I said this is going to be a game menu, okay, and it's called file, and that's confusing. So we can see here label. This is where it gets its name. So I'm going to change this label to game. And then if I stop and run this again, we can see up here that it says game now, okay? You could call it file if you wanted to. You don't have to rewrite this to game menu and confuse yourself. But I want this to be like, I want to restart the game. I'll go to the game menu, right? Kind of makes sense. You can call it whatever though. You're a developer. You're in charge of your own destiny. So now we're going to start adding commands. So this is really cool. So let's take this one out. So I'm going to rename file menu to game menu. And I'm going to say game menu.add command label equals new. So I'm going to change new to restart. Okay, so no. New game? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, rematch. Rematch makes sense, right? Because you've already played a game, and now you want a rematch with that person. Because remember, we're keeping this idea of having a session where we have multiple games with the same person. And if we come out of that session, we can either go back into it, or we can stop that session and start a new one with someone else. Okay? Or just a new session with the same person, but wipe the stats because someone's just got 100 wins to your 100 losses. Okay, so label equals rematch. So let's stop this and run this and see if that works. Game, look at this. We've got a little rematch here. I don't know what this... Ooh. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Oh no. I've broken it. I've broken it. What I don't like is the fact that this add cascade is like... oh no, that should that be there? Self.menu.add. Let's just change the position of it. So I'm going to add all my commands in first, and then I'm going to add my cascade. Just run this again. That's a little bit broken. Okay, that is what it is. We just won't click that dotted line for now. I'm not sure why that's happening, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really matter what order we put these lines in. You can have them in either order. I will put it back to where it was so as to remain as unconfusing as possible. So I'm also going to break these into sections, right? So we make the menu here, and then we add the window to the menu, and then we make the game menu, which is part of the kind of main drop-down menu bar. And then we're going to add all the labels here. So make menu bar at top. And then down here, we're making the game drop-down menu. Okay, lovely stuff. So what we want to do is we want to use this idea here. So in this commented out bit, you can see that we're saying file menu.add command, label equals exit, command equals root.quit. So as well as giving this a label, we can also give it a command to tell it to do something. Also, they've added a separator in here, which is interesting. Let's take these two lines and pop them up here. Okay, so I've got my file menu.add separator and my file menu.add command exit. Obviously, I'm going to update file menu to game menu. Good old copy and paste. Where would we be without it? Double click on a block of thing to select that word, or well, it thinks this is the whole word because there's no spaces between it. Get the block, and then Control C, Control V, easy replacement. So let's just test this, and also this here, this root.quit, it's got a underlined here because again we didn't call it root, we could have called it self.window, not wando, window, self.window.quit. So we have an exit button now, so you can click exit and you'll just go out of the app, which is, I don't know, quite nice. Game. So we've got rematch. Oh, and we got a little separator here. So that's what the add separator did. It added this little line in here, and I can click rematch. It does nothing. I can click exit, and it quits. Now, actually, what I prefer is destroy. It sounds a bit more intimidating, right? What destroy does is actually like gets rid of the window. So you can see that I clicked exit, but the window's still up. Even though we're not running, the run button is currently not set to stop, it's set to run. So the program has stopped running, but the window still is there. Whereas if we use destroy rather than quit, when I go to game exit, it's gone. It is destroyed. It is no more. And I've done a little bit of reading up about the differences between destroy and quit, and it seems like destroy... It seems like it doesn't really make a difference at this level, okay? But later on, destroy makes a bit more sense in a standalone application. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to add in a command here, and we're going to say self dot, and we oh look at this, it's giving me all the different things that we've made here. So we want to start a new session, yeah? So if someone clicks rematch, we want to start a brand... No, we don't want to start a new session. We want to start a new game. Not a new session. Do I have one for that? Let's have a look at the actual thing here. Next turn, change turn, clicked. New game. New game. Here we go. Okay, and our new game function at the moment just says, okay, the game's not over anymore. So we can add to this code and we can fix this. So we're going to say up here, when we're adding our rematch command, we're going to say the command equals self.newGame. Oh, we don't need the brackets. We just say self.newGame. Why don't you like that? That's not... Oh, right, I've missed the comma here. Okay, lovely. So label equals rematch, comma, command equals self.newGame. And what we're going to do is down here, we are going to add a bit more code to our new game function, because at the moment we're just saying, oh, the game's not over anymore. And but oh, let me show you, okay? Because it's not going to do anything, right? So we come to the end of our game. It's very hard to... Okay, so it's a draw, as pretty much every Noughts and Crosses game is. And we can see there it's a draw. So if I click game rematch, it's still a draw. Okay, nothing's really Oh no, do not click that dotted line. Dotted line of doom. It just doesn't do anything. What we actually need to do is we need to wipe the game board back so that they're all blank spaces again. Yeah. So we're going to say self.gameboard dot reset. That makes sense, right? This doesn't exist, so we should really implement this right now. So let's jump into gameboard.py and let's come down to our gameboard class, and we've got create board, we've got check. Oh yeah, this is all the victory condition stuff that we did last version. So check columns, check diagonals, check diagonal, check draw. Oh, so much to check. What we're going to do is after create boards, it can be anywhere. I just like to put things that kind of are similar together, but you do you, whatever you want to do. So we're going to say def reset, and what this is going to do is it's just going to go through every space that we've got in our grid, and we are going to reset them all to maybe I could make a reset on our space as well, actually. That would be really nice. So let's go into our space. I'm hopping around a little bit and I apologize for that. So we're making a reset function in our game board, but we're also going to make a reset function, procedure, what do you want to call it? Doesn't matter. It does the same thing. It doesn't, but it's okay. No one's going to tell us off here. We're safe. We're going to make a reset function here as well in our space class, okay? So here in our space, we've got all of these different things where we check for valid placement, we set the contents, we get the contents, and when we reset a space, what we essentially want to do is we want to say self.setContents with our self.blankchar, okay? Yeah, I could use that in the game board and do that, but it's just nice. It's just easier to read. Reset, and I know that I'm resetting that space. Okay, so when I reset a space, I'm just setting its contents to whatever the blank character of a space is, and when we initialize each space, we tell it that the blank character is a hyphen. And later down the line, I might change that to a 5. I probably won't, but could have a space character or something rather than an actual hyphen or something. So down here in our game board, for our reset, we're going to go through each row in our grid. So we're going to say I think we have a grid, if I remember rightly from the last version. Yeah, self.grid. So we've got rows in our grid. So I'm going to say for row in self.grid. Don't forget to put yourself in the brackets of this method definition. And then we're going to say for space in row. So remember, our row is an array of 3 spaces. And then we're going to have 3 rows, yeah? So there'll be 9 spaces altogether. Each row has 3 spaces in, 3 rows, 9 spaces. Oh look, there's 9 spaces on this grid. Oh, it works lovely. For space in row, we're going to say space.reset, and we just told a space how it can reset because we put its reset method up here. And so it just sets its contents to its blank character. Self.self.self. It's all self dots, this program. So this should reset the game board nicely. Now, is there anything else we need to do? We need to change the statuses of the players because we need to, what do we need to do? They're either both going to be set to draw, or one's going to be set to winner, one's going to be set to loser. And so we need to start that off again. Now, I'm pretty sure we wrote a function that does this. When we start a new session, we change the status, don't we? Yeah. Self.newGame. Okay. Okay, so really what we need to do is we need to keep track of who went first in the last game so that we can let the person who didn't go first in the last game go first this game. So we're going to create some way to track that here in the properties of our Noughts and Crosses class. So let's say underneath current turn, again, it can be wherever. Let's say self.firstPlayer. Self.firstPlayer. First turn, not first player, first turn equals, and we'll set it equal to self.current turn. Oh, let's set it to an empty string. Let's set it to an empty string. Otherwise, that's going to get confusing. Now, when we create a brand new session down here, when we create this session, we make a choice, okay, and we decide who it is who's the kind of current player. Really? Okay, yeah. So we decide randomly who's going first. Okay, that's fine. Because this is when we create the players from brand new. Okay, that's fine. But once we've set who's the current turn is, that's the first turn of the game, right? So we're also going to say self dot. What did we just call it? My mind's gone blank. Self dot first turn is equal to self dot current turn. So down here, we're going to set that equal to self dot current turn, and that should keep track of who it is that went first. Can I say dot copy? I don't think so. I don't know if I need to. So, because current turn is going to change, right? And I don't know whether setting it to self dot current turn is going to make it weird. Copy. Does that do anything? If that does, that'll be really helpful, because I want a copy of what the current turn is right now, but I don't want it to change when the next player has their turn, right? And if we're pointing it towards self.current turn, that's going to keep changing. And so self.first turn won't actually be the first turn. It's a little bit confusing. Okay, fantastic. So now what we're going to do is we're going to... what we're going to do... So we've reset the board. We want to now decide whose turn it is, right? So we want to essentially, let's say def get first turn. So new methods. We love writing methods. We love it. It's what programming's all about. Cranking out those methods. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, we've got our kind of choices here. No, let's not. No. So we're going to say if self.first turn is equal to x, then self.first turn equals noughts now, okay? And we're going to say self.current turn equals a nought. Otherwise, if it wasn't equal to an x, then it would have been equal to a nought. So we're going to do exactly the same here. Ooh. But we're going to set them to an x. Now, I feel like this can just be a little bit simpler, and so like there's a part in my brain at the back when I was writing that was like, no, this is silly, you can do this in a simpler way. So I'm going to do this in a slightly simpler way, okay? So I'm going to say down here, I'm going to say if self.first turn equals x, and I'm going to say symbol equals nought. Ooh. And then I'm going to say else symbol equals x, or cross, or whatever you want to call it. And then underneath this loop, I'm just going to set self.first turn and self.current turn to whatever symbol is. Okay, so I'm not like duplicating those lines. It would have worked the other way. It doesn't matter. It's just nice to see these patterns and like shorten them down and make it kind of a little bit more simple. So we're deciding what symbol it is, and then we're assigning that symbol to first turn and current turn. So now we have changed who went first, so who's going first in this new game, okay? So then when we come to the next turn, we can then look at that, and that's been updated. So on the third game, when we're starting that, we can look at who went first on the second game. And so it's really important that we're updating the first turn as well as the current turn. Okay, so gameboard.reset, we're going to say self.getFirstTurn. And now we need to go through the players and we need to set their turns, right? So we're going to say, we're going to make a new method. We're going to say def set player turns. If in doubt, write a method. That's like, that's good. That's been like, I never remember, I'll never forget that great advice that someone gave me once. They were like, if you're ever in doubt, if you're ever in a rut, you ever doubting yourself, really struggling, just write a method. It'll all be fine. No one ever told me that. I don't think it's very good advice either. What are we doing? I am focused, I promise. It's Friday. It's Friday. Set player turns. We need to go through each of the players, and if the player symbol matches whose current turn it is, then we need to set them to my turn. Otherwise, we're going to set them to waiting. Okay? So very much like up here. Very, very much. Actually, start new session. I'm going to pinch this, actually. I'm going to copy this. Just these two lines. So for player in self.players, if player.statSymbol.get is equal to self.current turn. Yes, please. That would be lovely. Oh. Beaut. So we're going to say, I think the player has a method. Did we do it? Yes, set status. So we can set their status. Okay. And I believe, did we store? Yeah, we got waiting text and turn text. Fantastic. So in our main function here, we can say player dot set status, and we're going to set the status. Is it set status? I remember there being a discrepancy between set status and change status. Should have called it flip status. I know. Set status, that's what we want. Yep. Change status is for if they're waiting, it flips them to turn. Okay. If status is waiting text, otherwise set to waiting text. We could use that logic, but we're kind of on a roll here. So we're going to say player dot. What is it? I was just there. Player dot turn text. Turn text. Yep. Else, if it's not equal to the current turns, if their symbol isn't the current turn, we're going to set them to waiting text. So else, else, and I'm just going to copy this line, paste it down here. Player.setStatus, player.waiting text. Okay, so now in our new game function, right? And can you see the way I'm doing this, right? So when we make a new game, we reset the board, we get the first turn, we set the player turns, we set the game over to false. And it's really easy to read from this new game method what the steps are that's happening. There's no like for loops and if statements and weird things going on. It's just human readable language that makes it really easy to see what the flow of this program is, okay? And if I want to see how I get the first turn, I can go to that method and I can check the logic of that, and that's fine. When I reset the game board. But here in this new game, I'm really trying to keep it high level and really kind of make it easy to read and to interact with. So set player turns. Is that all we need to do? Probably not, but let's give it a go. Let's see if this works. So I've got a good feeling about this. I've got a good feeling. We have bound this to our menu, haven't we? We will finish this menu, don't worry. We will finish it. So self.newGame, yep. So let's stop this and let's run it. I should have called it self.rematch, shouldn't I? New game kind of makes more sense. Probably. What I would quite like to do is... This block of code now is kind of useless because I can... So in start new session, sorry, I'm jumping around again. In start new session, we've actually implemented this as set player turns. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and instead of this loop here, I'm just going to say self.set player turns. And that will just update their turns, which is great. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. Now, what's this error that's behind me? String has, yeah, okay, I didn't think it had an attribute copy. It didn't throw an error though, so yeah, I'm concerned that this is going to be wrong. So I'm going to do this self.currentTurn. That so this will cut a string, right? What this does, this cuts a string, and I'm pretty sure. Let's just check in the shell here. Let's just go Python 3. Okay, so if I was to do, let's make a variable called a and set it equal to a, and then if we said a and then brackets colon 1, we get a. Okay, if I was to set a to hello, okay, and I was to do the same thing, I get the h, right? It just cuts that first character out. So that's what we want to do. We want to take self.currentTurn and we want to cut that character out, because I don't want it to refer directly to currentTurn, because currentTurn is going to be changing. I just right now at this instance, with whatever currentTurn is right at this millisecond when the processor is running it, I want it to just cut this out and attach it to first turn. Okay, so it's got its own copy. I do not want it to be looking at self.currentTurn, because that's going to be ping pong in between the different people's turns it is, and that means you could end up with you start a new game and you have the same person go first at the same time, which is not good. Okay, get first turn. Yep. Okay, let's run this. Let's bring this back down. And let's run this and let's see how we are doing. So, naught cross. I'm going to try... Does it matter if someone wins this? No. So, Alice has lost. Okay, she is crosses. She is clearly lost. Bob has won. He is noughts. And he has got 3 in a row. Oh, if you lose in this game like this, then you've got a lot of learning to do. So if we go to game and rematch, look at this. Okay, I can't really remember who went first that turn. Oh, it was noughts, right? Because there were 3 noughts on the board, 2 crosses. Yep. So now it's crosses go first, and Bob is set to waiting, Alice is set to my turn. So now crosses can go first. Alice is going to do exactly what Bob did in the last round, and now they're 1 apiece. And you can see here that now their wins and losses are going up, and we're not having to stop the application and restart it. We can just say rematch, and we can now play another game. Okay, oh, look, I won. I didn't realise I'd won. So Bob has won here. He's got 2 wins. And we're keeping track of these wins and losses. Let's see if I can make a draw and just make this work. So let's press rematch. How to draw in noughts and crosses. Takes too much brain power. Naught there. Can't go there. Have to go here. Oh, no. Can't even make a draw, but you can see it's working, and I'm pretty sure the draw will work just fine. Okay, fantastic. So we have managed now to get an actual game menu in this, where we can have a rematch and where we can exit. I just want to finish up this menu, and then that will do it for this version. So as well as having a rematch, we also want a new session. So we're going to add another command here, and we'll program that in the next version, but we'll get it placed in here. So I'm going to take this line, and I'm just going to pop it down here under rematch. The order of these is important because that's where they will appear in the menu. Now, I want rematch to be the first thing because you're probably going to want to play a few games before you start a new session. So I'm going to change this label from open to new session, and I'm going to put the dots as well because that like new session the dots, if you ever see a dots in like an application or something, that normally means that's going to open a new window or take you somewhere else. And so we're going to put that in as a kind of little cue that you're going to be taken away from this screen. We're going to also update this variable name. File menu doesn't exist. We're going to take game menu and replace file menu with that. Okay, lovely. So let's just run this. And when we go to the game, we now have new session, rematch, and exit. And we can see here that in this code, they have also added in a help menu. Okay, and so we're going to add in an about menu as well. So it will come next to here, next to game. We'll have game and we'll have about. So I'm going to uncomment this out. And I'm going to keep a space here, just like I've kept a space here. So let's put a comment here as well and say making the About menu. And we're going to say help menu equals tk.menu. And we're going to give it self.menu. So this menu is going to be attached to our self.menu. We're then going to say menu.add cascade, label equals not about, it's going to equal, no, not help, it's going to equal about, and the menu is our help menu. Fine. We don't want menu.add though, we want self.menu.add. So many dots, so many dots. Okay, and then this last line, we're going to say, we've called this help menu. I need to rename this to about menu. So let me just copy that, and I'm going to replace it here. So menu equals about menu, not help menu. And up here, I'm going to say our about menu equals tk.menu. Okay, and you notice that I've gone back to pothole case as well for this variable. Okay, label equals about, and then on here we will have, what is it they have in applications? Normally it's like, maybe we'll have like a rules page, okay, that will take us to a rules page, and we'll have also like a credits. It's not credits. It's like there's normally like a little in little apps there's like a little like thing that will pop up and it'll be like made by so and so and like have a little like copyright symbol and that kind of thing, but we'll add that, we'll keep that in. So now we should be able to run this, and we see that we've got both a game menu and an about menu. So we can go to about and we can get the rules and we can get the credits. In the rules page I'm probably just gonna I don't know, maybe just like put a link to Wikipedia or something in there, and we'll call that done. I'm not going to spend too much time on these at all. But now you can see that we're starting to really make this feel like an application. I know I have not fixed this spacing issue yet with the stats. It's kind of looking all right. It is a little bit off kilter, right? But it's kind of looking okay. This weighting just kind of comes over a little bit further than I'd like it to, but it's not. Yeah, I will fix it though. I will fix it. But that's going to do it for this version. We've come a long way. It is a very simple game of noughts and crosses, but you can see that there is a lot to think about here and a lot to program in. This is not the only way that noughts and crosses can be programmed, okay? There is probably a way of, well, there's almost definitely a way of programming noughts and crosses that takes about half as many lines, or 10 times less many, 10 times less? Yeah, 10 times less lines of code than I've done here, but we are doing more than just a noughts and crosses game, right? We're looking at how we can implement it in a graphical user interface, and how we can have game after game after game and track things, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed following along with this version, and hopefully I will see you next version in version 6. Thank you for dedicating some of your time to program with me and to develop your skills and your programming ability. I hope that my waffling hasn't been too unbearable, and that you have enjoyed this if you've enjoyed this half as much as I've enjoyed it, I will count that as a huge success. And until next time, I will see you later. No, I won't. Until next time. Yeah, I will. I will see you later. I'll see you next time. Or you'll see me. I don't know. How does this work?